Open Hormuz in 48 hours, or power plants burn. The world is not heading toward a crisis, it is already inside one. Quietly and almost invisibly, pressure has been building around one of the most critical choke points on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow strip of water that controls the rhythm of the global economy, not just a location on the map, but the artery of energy, the silent engine behind modern civilization, where nearly 20% of the world's oil flows every single day, fueling industries, sustaining cities, and keeping billions of lives in motion. And for decades, this fragile balance held, until now. Because within the last 48 hours, a message surfaced, not through official diplomacy, but through signals too structured to ignore. A message that was short, direct, and designed to create maximum fear. Open Hormuz in 48 hours, or power plants burn. No signature, no confirmation, just a deadline and a threat precise enough to trigger global alarm. Because this is not just about blocking ships, this is about triggering a chain reaction that starts with oil disruption but rapidly escalates into something far more dangerous. Because if the Strait of Hormuz closes, even briefly, oil prices do not simply rise, they surge uncontrollably. Markets destabilize, supply chains fracture, governments scramble to respond. But beneath all of that lies a deeper and more fragile vulnerability: energy infrastructure itself, the interconnected systems that power the modern world, where power plants, electric grids, and digital control systems operate in synchronized precision. And the phrase "power plants burn" is not symbolic, but operational, because modern grids are digitized and exposed, meaning a coordinated cyber or physical attack could overload systems, shut down generation, and trigger cascading failures across entire regions. And if multiple plants fail simultaneously, the result is not inconvenience, but systemic collapse. Cities go dark instantly, hospitals lose critical systems, airports freeze, communication networks collapse, financial systems disconnect, and daily life as it exists simply stops. And this is why the threat is being taken seriously at the highest levels, because behind closed doors, global powers are already reacting. Intelligence agencies working non-stop, monitoring anomalies, tracking signals, analyzing intent, while militaries reposition assets quietly, preparing for escalation without signaling panic. And at the center of this tension stands Iran, whose geographic control near the strait has long made it a key player in any disruption scenario, while the United States maintains strategic presence to ensure open navigation, and between them, the Gulf states, deeply dependent on uninterrupted energy flow, now find themselves caught in a tightening geopolitical equation. But what makes this moment different is not just the location or the actors, it is the nature of the threat itself. Because this is no longer traditional conflict, this is hybrid warfare, where cyber capabilities, infrastructure vulnerabilities, and strategic timing intersect, creating a form of pressure that is harder to detect and even harder to stop. And right now, cyber defense systems across multiple nations are on high alert, monitoring networks in real time, scanning for irregular patterns, preparing countermeasures for attacks that may never be publicly confirmed, while energy providers quietly activate contingency protocols, testing backup systems, redistributing loads, and attempting to reduce exposure without triggering public concern. All while the clock continues to move forward, hour by hour, minute by minute, as markets begin to react with volatility. Oil prices fluctuate, insurance costs spike, and uncertainty spreads faster than any confirmed event. Because crises like this do not begin with explosions, but with doubt. And right now, doubt is everywhere. Imagine waking up to confirmation that the Strait of Hormuz has been shut down, tankers halted, supply chains interrupted, global markets reacting instantly, governments releasing reserves, populations beginning to panic, and at the same time, power grids in key cities start to fail without warning. Lights go out, signals disappear, systems shut down not as accidents, but as coordinated disruptions. And suddenly, the modern world reveals its most fragile truth, that everything depends on continuity, on flow, on systems that must never stop, and when they do, the effects are immediate and overwhelming. And this is why the real question is no longer whether the threat is real, but who has the capability and willingness to execute it. Because in today's world, advanced cyber tools are no longer limited to a few actors, and strategic vulnerabilities are no longer theoretical, meaning that disruption no longer requires full-scale war, but precision, timing, and access. And if those elements are already in place, then the current situation is not a warning, but a countdown, which is exactly how global leaders are treating it, with negotiations likely happening in complete secrecy, no public statements, no visible progress, only controlled silence designed to prevent escalation or panic. While behind that silence, simulations are running continuously, scenarios being tested, responses being calculated, outcomes being modeled in real time, asking the same critical questions again and again. What happens if the strait closes? What happens if the grid fails? What happens if both occur simultaneously? Because those scenarios are no longer distant possibilities, but immediate risks. And as the final hours approach, the tension becomes almost tangible. Hour 36, hour 42, hour 47, each moment increasing pressure across political, economic, and technological systems until the world reaches a point where it must simply wait. Because whatever happens next will not remain contained. It will not stay regional. It will expand outward, affecting economies, governments, and everyday lives across continents. And once that process begins, it cannot be easily reversed, meaning that what is at stake is not just energy flow or regional stability, but the integrity of the global system itself. And so the world now stands at a silent crossroads, facing a decision that may never be publicly explained, a threat that may never be officially claimed, and a countdown that may define the future of global stability, with one final unanswered question hanging in the balance. Will the Strait of Hormuz be opened in time, or are we about to witness the moment the lights begin to go out? Each moment increasing pressure across political, economic, and technological systems until the world reaches a point where it must simply wait, because whatever happens next will not remain contained. It will not stay regional. It will expand outward, affecting economies, governments, and everyday lives across continents.